music. And then realised it didn't work.
Right, let me just send a link out and we're good to go.
Yeah, reload at the chat room.
It wasn't working on my Surface.
The last day without Windows 10 in it.
Yeah.
Depending on where you live.
Yeah.
I haven't touched my wife's Surface. But she got a Surface Pro 2. I've registered her and accepted the Windows 10 upgrade. But apart from that, I'm not doing anything. I'm going to leave it to her. Then when it does upgrade, I didn't do it.
It wasn't me.
Yeah, it wasn't me. I haven't even looked to see if it's actually downloaded the files or not. But I did get a message from my ISP today saying we'd use 90% of our bandwidth, which is about 180 gig, I think.
Wow. Yeah, so you're really churning it out.
Yes. Which isn't bad when you've only got a 3 meg download.
Yeah.
How many devices on though?
Well, yeah. Well, that's 3 machines downloading builds of Windows 10. So.
Although it's supposed to work it out if it's in the same network and just download it on one and then pick it up on the others.
Yeah, it is. I'm necessarily seeing that working, but yeah, it's. Also my wife pretty much exclusively, apart from in the evening, she just watches stream TV now.
Right, so everything seems to be live. So, Jason, Gary, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you, Ian?
Okay, getting very excited for Windows 10 week.
Yes, I'm glad to see the back of this week. The adventure I had over the weekend with Windows 10.
You say it's not reliable, Jace.
I'm saying I may have done things that I probably shouldn't have done.
Well, okay. Well, I'm gonna ask you about that, but we're also just gonna say we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Windows 10 launch that it is today, or yesterday, or tomorrow, depending on when you listen to it.
It's launched in Australia already, so
yeah. And actually, myself and Gary will be down at the Windows 10 launch tomorrow, so we might get some audio from that. But I think so that probably from next week's show. So I might take my kit and thrust microphone in people's faces as I normally do when I go to these things.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think we'll include those in next week's show. So we'll talk about that as well. We'll talk about how the rollout process seems to be going, and DLNA and that as I've been nosy around Windows 10, seeing what you can do and can't do with DLNA. So we'll talk about that as well. So I could say, first thing I noticed, really, I did my Lynx 7 here, my just little Lynx 7. I did a PC reset on that so I could get the complete out-of-box experience. I noticed it's changed quite a bit. So, Jess, I seem to read over the weekend you messed about with yours quite a bit.
Yes, I did. So I'd had a problem that suddenly cropped up with the Windows Mail app in that it wouldn't sync reliably my Outlook.com email, and there's an answers thread on the Microsoft Windows 10 Insider forums. Quite a few of us actually. When you look at the Windows Feedback app, there's quite a few people having this error. And in the end, credit to Microsoft, they did come back and say, look, we believe this is an issue with upgrading from one Insider build to another one, and it's just something that didn't get cleaned up in the upgrade. And so partly impatience on my part, because I thought, well, when we joined the Insider program, we agreed to accept that there might be issues upgrading between each build and that we might have to reset our systems. And they did advise that, don't install it on a production system. So, I kind of accepted those risks. So I got a bit impatient. So I started playing around with PowerShell scripts, kind of removing the Windows Mail app, which you can't normally do just by right mouse clicking it, re-downloading it from the store, trying various things, trying to fix this issue. And there were some really good people contributing to the topic, say in the answers forum, people trying a reset but keep files, and other people trying kind of a clean install. And anyway, so I decided what I'd do is I'd delete my profile, which is something that I'd done. I think we talked about it last week, where I said I'd deleted my profile to try and fix my rogue, kind of ghost apps linked to in the all apps menu. So I thought I'll just do that again, but before I do it, I'll uninstall the Mail app one last time, and that way when I log in, I'll be able to download the app from the store completely fresh. So I quickly created a secondary profile that I could log into, set it as administrator. So logged into that, deleted my old profile. All my data's in OneDrive or on a micro SD card. So I knew there was no risk of losing data. But what I hadn't realised is that this new offline profile hadn't got the store, hadn't got any of the out of the box apps in its profile. The start menu was barren. It got like 3 tiles. And so when I recreated my new profile, sorry, one of my alerts. So when I recreated my profile, the same thing happened. There was no store app, no out of the box experience, and try as I might, I couldn't get the store. There's no way to reinstall the store if it's missing. You kind of, there's nothing you can do. There's no Apex get package that you can run. I tried everything. I tried the SFC scan now. I tried the deployment validation tool. In the end, I tried a system restore, which, because it was from before I deleted my profile, just got me into all sorts of mess. I tried creating a new profile. That took between 5 to 10 minutes to even log in. All I had was that "we're getting things ready, this won't take long" screen, which stayed off about 5 or 10 minutes. So long story short, I created myself a bit of a mess. I don't take this as any reflection on the stability of Windows 10. This was completely my doing. But in the end, the way I got out of it is, actually a feature of Windows 10. So we've talked about it before, that Windows Update now has this peer-to-peer technology. So when you upgrade to the latest Windows 10 build, ordinarily you had that hidden folder as part of the upgrade, and that got wiped out once the upgrade was completed.
Yeah.
But with Windows 10, it keeps those files so it can feed them to other machines. And I don't know if you've ever come across a product called Nlight, which used to be able to create lightweight Vista packages and Windows 7 packages for machines with not much hard drive space. So they've updated their software so you can actually point at that cache folder and it will make an ISO for you. So in the end, I made an ISO, copied the files out to and used it to create a USB drive with the setup and all the apps and all the downloaded setup files. And it's always been one of the features that I've loved of Windows is that you can always reinstall to the same build. You can't downgrade from, say, Pro to Home, but you can always install the same build over the top. And I think, again, we talked about this quite recently. People used to use the Windows 7 upgrade media to do clean installs by doing an install without a key, then an upgrade with the key.
Yeah.
So basically, I did a what I call an in place to the same build number upgrade, and it fixed everything. So then I again deleted my profile, created a new profile. Everything worked. My Outlook synced just as I got rid of that horrible bug, and so got my system back up and running. But this is like 5 a.m. Saturday morning after staying up all Friday night because I was in a bit of a panic because I've got so many VMs and stuff configured on here. And I say, that's my choice. I chose to put it onto what is my production machine, so I accepted those risks. So long story short, I created a bit of a mess, but the strength of and power of Windows actually got me out of it. And since then, it's been completely stable. The only hiccup I've had today is that I noticed my Xbox Music that I'd uploaded to OneDrive wouldn't stream. And from the threads I managed to find, this is due to the suggested fixes that you move your music out of OneDrive, delete the music folder, and recreate it. And I realised that the music folder I'd used was actually created from my OneDrive account like 4 or 5 years ago, the very first kind of SkyDrive, Windows Live sync. It just, when I created that SkyDrive profile, it created a music folder. I don't think it was seen as a true music folder because
like a custom folder.
Yeah, so now I've just before we started recording, I've created a new music folder in, and now says empty music folder. There's a picture of headphones and everything, which I haven't seen before. So I suspect that was probably what it was. It wasn't seen as a true, for whatever metadata it puts into that folder obviously didn't exist. So I'm going to try uploading another out, just a single album, and see if that streams.
That's a lot of data to read back upload on your unlimited bandwidth.
It is, yes, absolutely, yeah. But for me, kind of Windows 10 is a story of two tales, really. You've got the old Win32, and since this recent build of what is now kind of, for want of a better word, RTM build, the Win32 part of for me is absolutely rock solid, super stable. I'm still have some concerns over the modern apps, like I say, the mess I got myself into, but just I've still seen reports of people saying that Cortana sometimes doesn't open or the notifications doesn't quite open. So, but I think ultimately for me, I think it's definitely ready. And I think we're going to get to the phase where this is rolled out to so many people that any lingering bugs will either get fixes, patches, or they'll probably release those fix-it articles.
Yeah.
So I've had quite an adventure, but I do want to underline the fact that I don't consider this a reflection of the stability of the 10240 build, because my machine's been upgraded from one build to another build, and I've been messing around. We've talked about I've had family safety issues and all sorts, so I wouldn't consider my system a clean system. And I think I was kind of having a bit of a tweet storm over the weekend saying, I dread that all the reviews are going to be based on this build to build upgrade process where things do carry over. I prove that things do carry over within your profile. And I think the real consumer experience, the one we need to focus on, is either buying a brand new PC with Windows 10 or the people upgrading for the very first time. And Mary Jo Foley's got an excellent article on her first experience upgrading, which, apart from things she doesn't like necessarily about Windows 10 itself, she doesn't once mention any stability issues. So
it's a really good article, that one.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's Mary Jo Foley says it herself. She's probably as close to a normal consumer user than all of us. We tend to be quite obsessive and tweak our systems and mess with them and put beta software on them, and whereas she's very much she uses technology as a tool.
Yeah, and I wanted to sort of to try and get a clean experience, so I've left this Surface Pro 3 with their Windows 8.1 on it, so I can see what that process is like. But I wanted to play around with it, like I said at the start, with this Link 7 and see what that really get a true experience of a clean machine. So I did a PC refresh on this yesterday. So I noticed the out-of-box experience has changed slightly. It asked me whether it was my machine or a business machine.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that appeared in one of the latter builds. Yeah.
So I went through the setup, but I did have an issue with an app like you did. After I installed after I'd completed the setup and everything finished and it did the updates and it installed the apps, the Groove Music app wouldn't work. It was grayed out.
Right.
You could click on it, but it would then just take you to the store. But of course, that app isn't possible to uninstall.
Yeah.
Or reinstall.
There are, like I say, there are PowerShell ways to do that. But
that's what I did.
My advice is don't do that.
Well, I did try that because I remember very early on I had a problem with OneNote not working, and the PowerShell method did work. It uninstalled it, and then you could go to the store and download it. So with PowerShell, I uninstalled Groove Music, and then it was available to install after that. But what it seems to do, and it seems to download. It doesn't seem to re-download it from the store. It seems to download a cached copy of it because it's very quick at downloading and it's sort of almost instant. And then it still had the same problem. So anyway, I'd only just finished the PC refresh, so I thought, well, I might as well just do it again because I've not even started setting it up yet. So I did do that, and then that's fine. I know that's worked really well. Only the one thing I've noticed is I've lost my rotation lock button. So this Link 7 now hasn't got a rotation lock button, and it doesn't rotate anymore. But then when you go in the device manager, the accelerometer is there.
Right, yeah.
So it's just like it's forgotten that. But apart from that, it's working absolutely fine, and it does work really well. Once you've got a fairly clean up install on it.
And that's why I say I think Microsoft are going to have to do these kind of fix-it articles, because you can't have consumers messing around with PowerShell trying to forcibly remove an application, and so that is still the element of Windows 10 that makes me nervous. But I think it's also important that we accept that really the modern environment with Windows 10 is still almost a version 1. It's not the same modern application environment that Windows 8 was. So it is really, the first version that we're getting out there. Did you, in your Surface Pro 3, have you noticed, I had some chat on Twitter today that you've got the hotfixes already downloaded at the same time, so it should install completely, as up to date as all of our Insider machines.
Yes, they're all there. I just noticed this folder today got created, which is a win.bt folder with the dollar.
And that's the one you can use to create an ISO from. We're using the Nlight software.
Yeah. so that over the course of the day went from, it was like 140 meg for most of the day, then all of a sudden it jumped to 6 gig. So it's done the full install and the setup exes there, which I did click, obviously.
Of course.
And it doesn't work.
No, Gary's right. It doesn't work. It comes up with the say WinBoot message file is missing. So I presume what they're doing is they're delivering the main bits of it, and then there's a single WinBoot file that they probably deliver at the tomorrow.
Did you see? I tweeted you to say that your setup.exe was definitely a more up to date version.
Yes.
Than
Yeah.
the insider build we got.
Yeah, that was interesting. That, and I also did notice you mentioned about the updates. There's an update folder, and if I go in there, there's a critical and a GDR folder, and in the GDR folder is included the one of the install patches. I think 3074683, the cab file for that as well. So it looks like they're going to get rolled into the update.
Yes. And certainly there was a bit of a problem over the weekend, wasn't there? That update, which has now been superseded, had a problem with Explorer. But interesting enough, I'd missed the chatter about it, and I actually went to rename my network connections because I noticed they'd got a suffix of 2 on it, so it was like Wi-Fi 2 and Ethernet 2. And every time I tried to do it, Explorer restarted. I was like, oh, that's a bit odd.
Yeah.
And then I realised afterwards, when I was catching up on news and stuff, that actually it was a bug.
Yeah.
In that patch, which, given that we are now in the world of enforced updates on Windows 10 Home, that kind of instability, while great, they fixed it within about 24 hours. That's the nervousness that people have about forced updates, isn't it?
Yeah, it's what we were discussing last week, isn't it? And I still hope that once we're out of this obviously huge resource strain they've got at the moment with Windows 10, that they'll actually be able to dedicate a bit more time to testing those updates before they go out.
Yes, yeah, and I think they have had their back to the wall, haven't they? They want to get all the fixes that they could done for tomorrow or today, depending on where you are in the world or when you're listening to this. That they probably have been rushing things slightly, but hopefully these big updates, big fixes will kind of go through the insider program first.
Now, when we did a post about the rollout plan from a blog post that Gabe All did, they did say that it was insiders that would get it first on the 29th, and then it would roll out at some point after that, didn't they?
It did, yes.
Yes, yeah. Once they'd kind of stabilized it.
Yeah. So I wasn't expecting to see the Windows 10 coming down to any of my machines apart from the ones I've already done.
Mm.
Yeah, I wonder whether or not that was slightly misleading in that they didn't want us to think we were getting the final bits a week ago.
Yes, it could be, couldn't it? Because it's essentially we've had the final bits for well over a week, and
Microsoft doesn't like to call it that, but yes, we have.
Yeah. Or the build that they're patching for the next X amount of whatever. But yeah, like I'm looking at my Surface Pro here with Windows 8.1 on it, and it's going to get the update, and I imagine that at some point tomorrow it's going to prompt me to install it. But I didn't think they were going to do that. I thought that was the original plan, and then they changed it. They changed that with a clarification that now seems to be not correct.
I guess you'd imagine within Microsoft, probably Surface Pro 3 is probably one of the highest devices they've got telemetry for. So I guess they can be relatively confident. And I have to say, despite my issues, this build that's going out, it has been the most stable on my Surface Pro 3. I've got, since the couple of fixes have rolled out over the last week, I've got no more sleep issues. I've got no more network issues. I don't find the fan kicking in as often as it did. I found that the battery life, although is still a bit random. So when I was using my Surface on the weekend after I'd fixed it all, I was getting an estimate of about 7 to 8 hours battery life. But then last night when I was using it on the sofa, it was estimating, after I'd been using it for, let me think, probably a couple of hours, it was estimating maybe 3 to 4 hours. And again, for me, it's a tell of two things. If I'm just using Win32, so maybe the browser, maybe the big Outlook client, Office, and keep away from Metro apps. That's why I keep using them for Metro apps, don't I? Store apps, let's say. Then I find the battery life is much more improved. I do find that the store apps can sometimes be quite resource heavy, particularly since they don't seem to close down as efficiently as they have done maybe on Windows RT or on Windows Phone in the background.
Yeah, I think that's getting better. I mean, one thing I've noticed, one thing I keep an eye on is CPU temperature.
Mhm.
It's obviously had a few overheats in the past. This has been steady around the 43 to 46 degree mark on this build, the latest build. On the previous build, it was steadily around 48 to 52. So
a
it's
little bit more
definitely
efficient.
a bit more efficient. Obviously, using the CPU a little bit less, because I believe that's what heats it up. So I think that there are some definite improvements in this build on that, and hopefully over time we'll improve those even more.
And I also think that the estimated time remaining, which is a relatively recent addition, and it was on one of their early builds and then disappeared and back again. It seems to be getting more accurate in the last few builds, so maybe that's part of it, that it's still doing that calibration.
Could be.
Yeah. I think, I'm going to say it one more time and then I'll shut up. I think given the timeline that they've had and the turnaround they've done, this build is really stable for it to be going out to consumers, and it is only going to get better over time. They're not going to be focused on another massive release in 2 years' time. They're going to be fixing this thing constantly, particularly in the first month. They can't afford this to get the label that Vista and Windows 8 got, so that people just automatically go, oh, Windows 10, I don't want that. They just can't afford that.
Yeah.
What I found interesting is talking to Joe Public people, well, including my dad, who I'll count as Joe Public, because my dad's actually signed up for this Windows 10 update without even asking me, which is pretty radical.
But you'll bet your phone will be the first one to ring when
it doesn't work. But it'll be interesting to see how that does go. And I certainly talked to a lot of people. A lot of people I know have actually signed up for this update, and they're non-techies, people who just have a lot of people who've stuck on Windows 7. So I think we are going to see a lot of people updating. I just hope their servers can cope with it.
Now the question is, I'm looking at 3 machines in total now. We've got Surface that's got the update on, and the Skype machine and the one I use for the streaming, and neither of those have got that folder.
Yeah.
So, but
my Lynx 8 hasn't got that folder yet either. So
right. So the question I was going to, now these 2 machines haven't. On my Surface Pro 3 this morning, I did all the updates, and then they seemed to do the download, but I haven't. These Skype machines have done updates, but then I haven't checked again for updates. So I suspect if I did that, it might start, but I don't want to do that when I'm recording. But so I'm wondering though, is it that this download is only going to a very small group of devices like the Surface Pro 3, which, like you said, Microsoft got the information for, or is it machines that are getting the update that have got all the Windows updates installed?
I'd say, actually, sorry, Gary, before you jump in, one thing I do wonder, and I was thinking about this earlier, and you've just prompted me to mention it. So your Surface Pro 3, you've got Windows 8.1 on it, presumably, and you're signing with your Microsoft account. That knows you're an insider, and I'm wondering if that's why you're...
Yes, it could be, yeah.
Bits earlier.
Yes.
That was something that occurred to me.
Although all these 3 machines are signed in with the same account.
Yeah. Sorry, Gary, you were going to say.
No, that actually was one of my thought patterns, was whether it was to do with Windows account. So I think it could well be. I mean, I have seen a few people say they've got the update on the Lynx 8. So I guess a few people are getting it and a few people aren't. But you might be right. It might be related. Or it could be just alphabetical order.
It could be.
Yeah, it could be. So you'll be last, Gary.
I usually am.
Jason should be first then.
Yes, I'm excited and a bit of trepidation about my wife upgrading her Surface Pro 2 when it does prompt it.
Yeah.
While she's, because she only ever uses the tablet, she doesn't have a keyboard attached, doesn't use it with a mouse, and while it's been a bit of a learning curve, she kind of gets on okay with Windows 8. She complains sometimes that Internet Explorer kind of crashes, but that's because she tends to just leave it open all day, and we all know what happens with Internet Explorer when you do that. And I think so. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see her reaction, whether or not how she gets on with Edge. Really, Edge, while it is touch friendly, it's not as immersive as the modern Internet Explorer is on Windows 8. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think the thing is with Windows 10, I think it's going to be that the reaction to normal people, just normal users, that's the key to it, isn't it? I think last time, I think perhaps Windows 8.1 and 8 appealed to the enthusiasts like us, but then left a lot of people cold to just the normal users, and that's really what they've got to do. And that's why I think some of the features have been removed slightly. And like I said, we talked about the tablet functionality, how some of the things like the swipe up and things like that aren't exactly the same or aren't there anymore, but it's because they focused on discoverability and ease of use for normal users.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I think, the start menu, it is, I think I've seen this a lot, the keyword over the next few weeks is going to be familiar. And, the start menu is familiar, it is usable. And you can pin Win32 apps in there. So, people that used to, and maybe Joe Foley mentioned this, she expected Notepad to be one of her most frequently used apps, and it's not. But, you could pin Notepad into the start menu, so it's always there. And that's kind of, you could quite easily customize that to applications that, you use all the time.
Yeah. So, well, we're going to find out only this week, see how it goes on. So by next week, we'll see how users have got onto it. And my kids have signed up for it on their laptops. So I think for a Windows 7 user, I think it's the nice thing I think they've managed to do with Windows 10 is it's not too much of a shock for a Windows 7 user who's not been exposed to Windows 8. And also for a Windows 8 user, it is still a nice upgrade. So it's a fine line that they've had to go between familiarity and moving forward. And I think they've managed to do that. And I think there's not many occasions where you can think of software that's managed to make that leap forward and still bring older versions along with it. It's a very difficult job they've had, a difficult compromise that they've somehow managed.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, exactly as you said, it is going to be a more natural evolution for people that are coming from Windows 7 rather than those coming from Windows 8. I'm thinking of you, Josh Pollard. But yeah, I think it's going to be a natural evolution, and it is going to feel much more familiar. I've been watching the videos that they've been releasing day by day on the Windows blog, and I think they're very clever adverts. The way that they just show off one particular feature each time. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I'm certainly planning on upgrading my mum and dad's. They've got HP Touch Smart, which takes about 6 minutes before it's really ready to use, booting up for Windows 7. So I'll be interested to see how the fast boot in Windows 10 kind of changes their perception.
Oh, and talking HP Touch Smart, HP Touch Smart 500 update for regular listeners. On the latest build, all working well with all the patches on there.
Excellent.
Still going strong, but without Windows Media Center.
Yep, absolutely right.
Well, actually, tip to Digimedia Zone, they picked up on the fact that Media Center's changed its source for guide data.
Yes, I think it has.
It's
especially
now
in the US. Yeah.
Yeah, it's using the Xbox guide supplier.
Yeah.
That's certainly good news in terms of the longevity of guide data for Media Center for the people that are going to stick with Windows 7 or Windows 8.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I wonder how long it'll be before someone hacks Media Center onto Windows 10, because they used to do it with Server 2008, didn't they? People had a way of getting it up and running.
Yeah, I mean, really, they're only binaries, aren't they, of .NET framework binaries? But I don't know.
Someone will do it. Come on, lay down the challenge.
and of course, when Windows 10, officially launches tomorrow, or whenever you listen to this on the 29th, it will be the first version that hasn't had Windows Media Center available since 2004.
Yes, very true.
Yeah,
it definitely is the end of an era.
What was Vista? Was that Windows 7 was 2009, wasn't it?
Yeah, Vista was around 2007, wasn't it? Something like that. No, so you're gonna.
Yeah,
it's that Christmas quiz again.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah.
I lose track of time. I really do. It's because Windows 8 came out around October time, didn't it?
Windows Vista was launched in 2007. I was there at January CES. Oh yeah, I forgot I was there.
Yeah. Windows Vista was your idea.
Yeah, it was built especially for Ian.
Yeah. I was one of the few people that got along with it, I think.
Yeah, Windows Vista in many ways is quite dear to my heart. It was the first. That was our adoption of Windows Media Center, so it can't be all bad.
It was RTM'd on the 8th of November 2006 and general availability 30th of January 2007. And I was there and met Bill Gates at the CES announcements where they launched the Windows Vista Ultimate Extras.
Gosh, whatever happened to Ultimate Extras? What happened to Ultimate Edition?
Yeah,
I did nearly reply to your post when we were talking about setting networks to private or public.
Yeah.
And I did almost reply to your response and say that must be why we're not launching it yet. Which I remember from, what was it, the Windows 95 demo where Bill Gates demo PC blue screened, I think it was.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
that must be why we're not launching it yet.
Actually, and that's a very good point. You like to. I don't know if this is a bug though, or I don't know if you've noticed this, that even though you've got your machine set to run a private network, when you come to it later, it's changed back to public. The next day or something like that. You've been out and you come back.
I haven't really noticed that. Mine seems to stay on.
Yeah. See, mine's on public now, and I know it's been on private because I've set it private about 99 times during the course of doing the media sharing for the book. And no matter which of the many methods you've got, I mean, I just showed how one using Home Group, but JC showed me the one where you can do it through the sort of the modern settings. But there's also other ways of doing it, and none of them. I've tried all three. And the way that we did it in the book is through File Explorer. You can just click on network and it says Discovery is not enabled. But none of them seem to stick, and I've got that on 2 different devices now. Now, granted, this is the Encore and the other, and the Lynx 7, so I'm not, as you said earlier on, these aren't clean builds or straightforward single upgrades. So I'm waiting to see what the Surface Pro does. But although this Lynx 7 actually is on private now, so maybe it is a bug in the upgrade process at some point. But anyway, it has bugged me that.
It could be. I mean, it's quite clever the way it does switch the same adapter between public and private depending on which physical network you're attached to, which I think it must do based on a familiarity of IP address ranges or MAC addresses or something. So it could be that it's just not switching it back. Yeah. So when you plug it into a network somewhere else, that it switches to public, because it's not a network it recognizes, but then it's not switching the physical adapter back properly.
Yeah, it must be. It just the Lynx and the Encore were doing it, but it looks like the Lynx is fixed, and that since I did the PC refresh, so maybe it is an issue. Upgrades, and we'll see what the Surface does. But it's quite important that if you're on a home network and you want to start doing DLNA things, you've got to switch that on, otherwise you can't access other devices.
Yes, yeah.
None of the guides in the book work at all. Talking media sharing and DLNA stuff, I did do a roundup last week of what's changed between the Windows 8.1 and Windows 10, because it's you do lose some functionality really. On the face of it, the Music app has lost the DLNA functionality, although it was limited in Windows 8.1 and the Xbox Music app. You could use the device's charm to share to a DLNA renderer, but that's gone in Groove Music completely. Now it may well return, but because the movies and movies and TV app does have it, so maybe we'll see that back in there. But I noticed it even on Windows 8.1, it doesn't work for protected music, so for music from the store anyway. But of course, you've got good old Windows Media Player that does all of it.
Yes. Still think it's odd how that gets included, but
yeah, and it's an essential. If you want to do any DLNA, really, that's your essential tool.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll. I mean, that's the other thing, isn't it? That it would be interesting to see what apps kind of pop up over the next, month or two. Because in some ways it's been a bit dull today and yesterday, because I kept checking the store for updates, and there haven't been any.
Oh, I'll tell you one.
Apart from Tweetium.
One app that has been launched, the new Twitter app is available.
Yes, I saw that. So, in fact, I downloaded it. Didn't really like it much.
Yeah.
It seems to be lacking in a few things the previous version actually had.
Well, it doesn't support quotes, I believe.
Yeah, but did the other previous version have that? I mean,
no.
Fresh is missing, which I've I would like to have, but I guess that's a non-standard thing in Windows 10 anyway. But
it looks better than the previous version, but I use Tweetium anyway. And I think if you use Tweetium, then that's a much better Twitter client.
Yeah, it's much better.
Yeah.
One of the really annoying things is it didn't retain your login account and count. You had to re-log in again.
On the Twitter app.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's actually a good point you mentioned there. When I've been setting up this links, some apps obviously retain save their login details to the sort of cloud storage. I think we talked about this when I wrote my Flickr app, where you could save your credentials to the credential store. So if you install Tweetium on a clean machine, it just works. You don't have to sign back in again. But some apps you do. So I'm thinking like Netflix and a few others. You had to re-sign in again, but then you go on to maybe Plex or MB, and you don't have to sign in again because they just know who you are because they use that cache storage.
One thing I've just noticed is because I've been deleting profiles and messing about. So on the Edge browser, I've imported my favorites from Internet Explorer, but on another machine, they haven't merged across. So clearly that sync isn't in place at the moment, which is a shame. Especially when you compare that to things like Chrome and other browsers.
That is a step backwards, yeah, and that is annoying. That
yeah,
because you could even in the modern version of IE on Windows 8 WAD, you can look at other tabs on other devices, and I don't think you can do that, can you?
No, I think that's even gone in IE 11 on Windows 10. I can't see other devices.
Yeah, so I think perhaps that we'll see that reappear. I mean, the old way of doing it was to move your favorite location, wasn't it, to a shared folder?
Yes, yeah, I think I might have to do that.
Yeah, because it just seemed crazy, didn't it, that your favorites and your cookies and these kind of things are all separate per device. So it's a bit like we talked about with the start menu not syncing. In fact, did you notice that we talked about it on the show last week, and it's been something you talked about, Jace, for a long while, and then suddenly it blew up last week. People reporting it all over the place as news.
Yes.
They listen to the show. That's all it is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Microsoft have quite rightly said it's because of we as we stated, it was because of different sizes of devices. You use them in different ways. But I can tell you from resetting up my profile twice at the weekend, it would have been so nice just to be able to choose to restore that configuration.
Yeah,
one of my favourite features from Windows 8, but never mind.
Yeah, hopefully we need to put it into the feedback app and get it upvoted.
Yeah, I mean, as an option. I mean, because there was always that thing on Windows Phone when you restarted from scratch on Windows Phone, you were given the option to restore from a backup. That would be perfect if we just had that option.
Yeah, and even on Windows 8.1 on my Surface device, when I've set up a new one, it's always do you want to use this or would you like to start over? So I think we can get that brought back for Threshold 2, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? There's got to be some features available for Threshold 2.
Yeah, one of my big things I'd like to see is add-ons for Edge. I'd like to see a LastPass toolbar. That's something I would like to see.
Yeah, I think there's a few people want that, and ad blocker and a few other things, isn't there, as well?
Yes, yeah. But at the end of the day, these are Edge's version 1 product. The start menu is built on XAML. That's a version 1 product. This stuff is going to happen eventually.
It's going to get better. I mean, we can see that with the phone builds, how much better they've got recently as well. It's just everything's going to get better.
I noticed it's gone very quiet on the phone front now.
Well,
yeah, it has. We had the slow ring release, didn't we? And I still resisted putting that on my 930. But I was going to say. Sorry, go on, Gary.
I was just going to say I've got a completely trashed 1020 at the moment because the USB port doesn't work on it, so I can't even do a restore. But never mind.
I was going to. I think I tweeted this. I was going to say this directly to you, Ian, and it slipped my mind. But in some ways, I'm kind of envious of you with the Windows 10 downloading for your Surface Pro 3 and you going through the upgrade, because I kind of feel like it's Christmas Eve and I'm one of those kids that snuck into their parents' room and knows what present they're going to get in the morning.
Yeah, that's right. You kind of waited for that experience. So am I going to get up tomorrow morning and see this button on my machine and on my Surface saying, download now? And of course, I'm setting heading towards London tomorrow, so I don't think I'll actually be doing that. It's probably not a good idea before I leave for a 2-day trip.
No, probably not the best.
Although
idea.
if it doesn't work, I can take it with me to the Windows 10 launch and find someone.
Yes.
Yeah. Fix my computer now.
Can you fix my computer? Yeah.
Actually, also just to mention a feature, I'm pretty certain Ed Bot had a great article on this going back to maybe Windows 8 days, or even, I don't think it was in Windows 7. But so just a reminder for people, one, to search out that article, but secondly, if you get Windows 10 installed and you get all your apps and Win32 apps like Office installed and you get things the way you like it, if you do a system refresh, you will lose desktop apps. The store apps will come back and your data will retain, but you will lose Win32 apps. But there's a command line tool called Rec Image, I think it is, and you can actually get it to snapshot your current and set it as the recovery image, so that when you do a system refresh, it will refresh with that as a starting point, which means it would include Office and other Win32 apps that you might have installed.
That would be handy, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you look on your hard drive, on your C drive, showing hidden files, you might even have one from any machines that have got upgraded through Insider Build. So on this desktop machine, he says, I've got a recovery image folder, dated 30th of April, and that actually includes the install.win for build 10074, which was the build prior to the RTM build I put on.
Right, yeah, I noticed that folder was there, and I think if you do a cleanup, it actually takes that away, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yes, yeah. So basically, that recovery image is how Microsoft are providing the uninstall option. So it will basically use that recovery image to put you back to Windows 8.1 or Windows 7, whatever it is you might have used. But I know there's a Microsoft knowledge base article about how to do it, and I know Ed Bot did an article about using it. But it can be a way to set yourself a good recovery point.
Interesting to know, actually, that this Link 7, because we're talking about disk space, and once you're doing these updates, so I did a PC refresh, like I said, and then installed all the patches got installed, and I reinstalled the mobile version of Office and Plex and MB and a few other things, and it's now using 14.8 gig with 23.5 remaining. So it seems to be this build is using less disk space for some reason, because I'm sure that was a lot higher usage on the previous builds. So doing that refresh definitely helped clear out a lot of space.
Yes, yeah, and I've seen quite a few reports of Windows 10 taking up less space, which it can only be a good thing, especially with smaller devices.
And of course, when we started down this Windows 10 journey last year, we were discussing what would happen with these compressed images, installations of Windows, and it doesn't seem to be an issue at all. This Link 7's running it, and it's never even cropped up as an issue.
Yeah, I'd say the one problem I have had time and time again, and again, this could be linked to anything that with the state of my machine, but on my Surface Pro 3, the Windows.old folder, you've got, if you do disk cleanup system files, you can remove your previous version of Windows, and I find that it doesn't completely clear that up. And then when you try and delete the folders manually, you just can't delete them. It either says they're in use or you don't have permission to delete them, and it's a shame it doesn't clean itself up 100%.
Yeah, you're right, because I did a disk cleanup on this Link 7 after I finished doing the install, because obviously I don't need to roll back because it was. But the folder's still there, but it's only 400K the total. Yeah,
it's relatively tiny, but for people like me that like a nice clean C drive, it's
people with OCD.
Yes, that's it, yeah. And let's face it, that's probably caused a lot of my problems, was forcibly removing that folder. So
yes, actually, I think you completely get yourself to blame for the whole thing.
I do. I accept 100% responsibility. Absolutely, I do. But yeah, it's, of course, the other thing we got this week was the Surface firmware updates.
Yes, but I haven't seen those yet. I usually see them first.
Well, the July one is only for Windows 10.
Right, that'd be why then.
Won't sit on your Surface Pro 3 and even that failed to install initially till they released a patch.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah,
it doesn't be common with Surface updates.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it did make me smile when I had, and I know it was the particularly build the Windows 10 we had, but it did make me smile when I was having Wi-Fi issues. It was like, why can't a Surface Pro just work with Wi-Fi?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
I don't know.
Microsoft's own product.
Yes, absolutely.
Looking at sort of a bit further afield than this Windows 10 launch, there was a bit of news today which I think has profound impacts on the industry going forward, which I don't know if any of you saw. It was an announcement from Intel and Micron. Basically, they've begun production on a new class of non-volatile memory, which is the first new memory category in over 25 years.
I saw the headline. I didn't read any details. So yeah.
So this is basically they call it 3D Point, which I think is a bit of a mouthful, but the key things about it is it's 1,000 times faster than NAND. It uses less components to actually create itself, so it's going to be cheaper as well. I think the minimum size it comes in is 256 gig. So and it's potentially expandable 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times that, just in very small packages. So I think, and this is almost getting up to RAM speeds in a non-volatile container. And I just think this is going to be really. Oh, and the other thing, of course, is it's also lower battery usage. Well, it uses less power to actually run this than NAND memory does. So it's all round. It sounds like a major move forward.
So that's going to mean devices like like the Surface Pro 3 and the Link 7 or whatever, kind of potentially more storage but much faster access time.
Yeah, exactly. In a smaller space as well. So potentially whereas currently most of the things like MacBook Airs and that have SODIMM type structures in the back for the SSD drives, they could be replaced by this type of technology. It's fast enough for that. So you could have really tiny chips storing an awful lot of memory.
And how long then before we see that into devices?
Well, as I say, they're actually starting production as of today, so it's not going to be long before we start seeing this. Probably end of the year, start of next year.
So a Surface Pro 4 with that storage.
It'd be nice to think it could be there.
Or Surface Mini.
Yeah. Yeah. So certainly it is going to definitely be interesting to see how this goes, because it uses a lot less components as well. The latency is a lot less. Just all round, because I mean, one of the things with NAND is not just the access speed; it's the latency to get to the access speed. So the time it takes to get that first access, and then you read quite quickly after that. Whereas this is going to have a much lower first access time as well. So it's going to really be very impressive stuff.
I mean, for most of your interaction with a PC, it's actually the disk access, isn't it? That's the largest latency in the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's not often you're maxing the processor out. It's usually accessing the disk.
Yeah, exactly. And this is going to be really clever in that respect. And it's got some really clever stuff, like it has the three-dimensional aspect of this. It's got access at both word lines and bit lines, so you can actually access individual bits, or you can access the whole word in one go. It's going to be which also should lead to better reliability, because you're not having to change so much of the memory all the time. You can just actually access the bit you want to change. So it's all round. I mean, obviously it's got to be proved and actually out there, but it should be really impressive. They talk about new innovations possible as applications ranging from machine learning to real-time tracking of diseases and immersive 8K gaming, which I'm sure you racing car drivers out there would love.
Absolutely.
HoloLens.
Yeah, HoloLens. All these things, it starts becoming a really useful thing. It's one of the things which has actually been holding back hardware the last few years, is the lack of ability to squeeze more NAND into a smaller space. So, and also the power consumption of it. So I think 3D Point is something to be listening out for.
Excellent. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, that's the next thing on the horizon, new hardware for Surface Pro 4 and whatever that brings us. So, and that's one thing that we've seen very little new hardware with this launch. I think we're going to see the hardware later in the year, aren't we?
Yeah, they're talking fall, aren't they? Really, sort of ready for that Christmas purchasing, holidays purchasing boom, probably just before Black Friday.
Now, so as we record this on Tuesday evening before the launch tomorrow, and so we'll be there at the launch. Are we going to see any launch surprises tomorrow, do you think?
I think we might still, although we should have really been seeing them today in Australia. But I suspect they'll leave it for the American launch.
So I think Minecraft is almost available now, isn't it? I think if you've got a Mojang account and whatever, so I think that's started to work its way through the store. So are we going to? We've seen Twitter already with their new app. So, well, we're going to see some new app launches.
I think I'm pretty sure we'll start seeing quite a lot of app launches over the next few days. Things moving across from being traditional Windows Store to being universal Windows platform ones.
I think the first time we'll know they're on a win is when we see a universal app replacing a Win32 app from a third party.
Yes.
So I'm not saying it's this app, but say like Sonos. I have no knowledge of this, so I don't. But something like that, where a traditional Win32 app like that gets replaced with a universal app. That's when we know that Microsoft are on the right track. I think with the universal. Yeah. Until we see them, then I'm not sure. But that will be a good indicator when we see a high-profile Win32 convert, or even if it's in the store, just the fact it's in a Win32 app in the store, which are going to be possible, isn't it?
Yeah. I tell you what, one question that I'm still waiting to hear the answer to: when can we download ISOs?
Yes, that's what I want, because I've got my machine which is on the domain at work, and I want to upgrade that, but that's not going to get it through the flag and the little the upgrade program. I've got to do that because I think you don't get that upgrade option if you're on a domain. So yes, I'd like to see an ISO. I think we should see them on MSDN tomorrow. I
would hope so. Yeah, I mean, maybe late tomorrow as the Americans get onto it. But I think that would be definitely the case. We should start seeing that.
Yeah. So I'll try and get some audio tomorrow from the event. If there is anything that I can do, I'll include that probably next week's show, because as I'm not around to edit this week's show, it's going to be tricky getting. So I'm going to have to get this show edited and out for Thursday, and then we'll maybe have some extra for next week's show, some bonus content. But if you're going down to the Windows launch event in London, then come and say hello. We'll be there. And so let's get downloading, and we'll see where we are next week. When Jason messes his system up again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stay away from PowerShell.
Yes. Yeah, one day I'm going to have to do a clean install, but I've got a load of VMs I need to move off. Which ironically, that the hard drives are stored on a USB 3 drive, but the only way to export a Hyper-V VM is to actually also then recopy the VHD files, which takes a long time.
Yeah. So, we'll be able to, where can we follow your PowerShell exploits?
Yeah, you can follow me at Database Jace on Twitter.
Yeah, and Gary, where can we find you?
At Gary WMA on Twitter.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll see some Windows launch event stuff on Twitter feed as well.
Yeah, indeed. Absolutely. And next week we must talk about Amazon Music.
Oh yes, yes we must. Yeah, because I saw your tweet on that. So yeah, we'll definitely talk about that.
Yeah.
So until then, we'll enjoy Windows 10, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.
See you next week. And write in. We want to hear your upgrade stories.
We're going to get the Artune music from Silent Send those in, and we'll get the music.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye. Cheerio.